Hello and welcome to this Storyboard special. I'm Shibani Gharat. In the lead up to Paris Olympics 2024, several prominent brands have announced their support for the India contingent, showcasing a strong commitment to sports and the athletes. These partnerships underline a collective effort from the corporate entities to uplift Indian sport and empower athletes with resources necessary to bolster India's performance at the Games. And then, given the success and buzz around the previous Tokyo Olympics, advertisers are most certainly viewing it as a big opportunity to enhance brand visibility and build consumer connections. This month-long extravaganza will draw millions of viewers worldwide across traditional and digital media channels. So how do these brands measure the success of its support for Indian athletes at the Olympics beyond just performance outcomes? How are they engaging with the Indian sporting fans during the Olympics? To answer these questions today, we are joined in studio by Vinit, Karnik, Managing Director of Content, Entertainment and Sports for GroupM India. We have Divyanshu Singh, who is the Chief Operating Officer for JSW Sports, and we have Nipun Kaushal, Chief Marketing Officer, Yes Bank. Now, to give you a background, JSW Sports, the sports arm of JSW Group, was established in 2012 and it aims to play a leading role in ushering in a culture for sports in India by maximizing the sport potential of Indian sports and athletes. It has a long-standing association with the Olympics and the Olympic athletes, and the company currently supports training of close to 300 Indian Olympic talent. On the other hand, Nipun's Yes Bank is the official banking partner for Team India at the Paris Olympics 2024. And then joining us over Zoom, we have Krishnan, Managing Director, Publicis Content Group, Marcomm. We have Sujatha Kumar, Head of Marketing, Visa India and South Asia. Now, Visa is the worldwide payment technology partner of the Olympic and the Paralympic Games. From India contingent this time round, they have PV Sindhu as well as Neeraj Chopra as their ambassadors, who will be a part of the roster of 147 Team Visa athletes for Paris 2024. And finally, we have Ashish Mukul, who is a brand head of Tasva. Tasva, the Indian menswear brand by Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail, is the official ceremonial dress partner for Team India at the Paris Olympics 2024. All of you, welcome to CNBC-TV18. Welcome to our studio.
Thanks for having me, Shibani. I mean, it's a pleasure.
So, Vinit, my first question to you, straight off the bat, give us an understanding on the advertising and overall advertising investment at the Paris Olympics this time, and how has it changed or evolved since Tokyo 2020?
Yeah, thanks, Shivani. That's very interesting. So first, what we need to understand is Olympic this year in India is a bit different, and I'll tell you a couple of reasons why it's different. So if you are comparing with the Tokyo Olympics, I think Tokyo Olympics happened in pandemic. So I think there's a huge change because after a gap of almost 8 years, we are seeing Olympics in its true avatar. Okay. Having said that, the reason why it's different is because firstly, we have a very interesting mix of contingent, almost about 117 athletes who are participating from India to Paris. More importantly, from a country's point of view, it's the first time India is hosting India House. Okay, like I mean, you would know that there's a tradition of hosting each country's house, and most of the developed sporting countries do host houses in the athlete village, right? More importantly, the kind of hype that's created by the whole Olympic movement in India, and obviously great effort done by the corporate India like JSW or Reliance or Tata's, who have done some phenomenal work to build that bottom up. So there's an excitement. From an advertiser's perspective, we are seeing a very interesting and encouraging response, both from a sponsorship of India contingent as well as sponsorship on streaming platforms, because of the sheer interest of fans. Yeah, so there are categories, obvious categories like your BFSI, your automobile, FMCG in some cases, are doing some very interesting stuff.
Lot of excitement around the Olympics. But Hari, my next question to you is give us an overall overview of this evolution. Some of it was also discussed by Vinit over here. But Paris is different. It's, like it's going to be full of spectators as well, which was missing last time round. But at the same time, the global economic situation, the macroeconomic factors, so much of, news around what's happening in Paris. A year packed with a lot of sporting events and especially cricket for a country like India. So tell us an overview and the kind of interest and investment done by brands around Olympics, your understanding of it.
So a very interesting question. While the pandemic, and Vinit is right, that it would have been a pretty dampened affair when it comes to the actual spectators in the host country or the host city, it still had a lot of eyeballs. And I guess what happened then was that it also saw the real birth of Neeraj Chopra. And what really is now going to happen is a lot of anticipation, all eyes on Paris, as I would call it when it comes to sport. From within people who are there within the host city, you're talking about simply that a lot of mood needs to be elevated for the public out there because of various socio-political issues that surround the West today. And for India as a whole, there is this real, I would call it a little chip on the shoulder, because we are doing well on many counts. Plus, we have our golden boys and girls going and representing there. Definitely Neeraj Chopra. If you've seen, even the surround around Neeraj Chopra is increasing. He's bagging more endorsements.
Yeah, and we have Sujatha over here, who has just a couple of months ago, Visa has onboarded Neeraj Chopra. You already had PV Sindhu. But tell us more on, roping in Neeraj Chopra, and give us an understanding as a marketer. You give us an understanding on how does supporting Olympic athletes, let's say, enhance your brand's visibility, not just in the country, but at a global stage as well.
The way we look at it, Shibani, is it's not about, okay, how are they going to perform, but it's about a very long association, what they bring to the sport, what they bring to the country, and therefore what they bring to the brand. We just recently, for example, launched a campaign around both these athletes with Visa, and it was all about small steps to inspire a billion, because we really believe that these athletes are those that the whole country is looking on and cheering for. So in terms of a brand speak, it's not so much about what it will do to the brand. Obviously, they provide visibility, but we make sure we chose athletes who link back to the brand. So Visa's ethos is, it is for everyone, everywhere. And if you see the two athletes we've got, they've really come from small roots. They have grown and they inspire everyone everywhere in a country. So what we actually call our campaign is Small Steps to Inspire a Billion. That's how we're looking at Olympics. That's how we're looking at our Team Visa athletes and how they link to brand Visa.
Yeah. Divyanshu, my next question to you is, a couple of years ago, I was just having this cricket versus other sports kind of a conversation, and this one gentleman made like a point, and which stayed with me is, non-cricket sports will rise to its popularity in the country if we have cricketing icons like Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma in those sports. But now we do have Neeraj Chopra, which was much discussed in the panel discussion. We do have PV Sindhu. What does it take to create, these national icons as, as a corporate or a company working with these athletes and, training them, investing in, their entire training as a run-up to Olympics? What does it take?
The harsh reality of the Indian sporting ecosystem is that a lot of the athletes actually start getting support when they become immensely successful. And fair enough, right? Because brands will see value in them when they carry certain market value. But actually athletes need support when they are in their journey, right? Because that's when they are devoid of funding. So that's where we kind of put together our Olympic program, which aims at identifying high potential athletes. We started India's first privately funded high performance training center called the Inspire Institute of Sport, which scouts athletes from around the country and then gives them everything from training to education to nutrition on a 100% scholarship model. Today, we are extremely happy that 20 of our athletes are a part of this program. They're going to the Olympics. But I think the big shift which we are beginning to see is that brands are seeing a lot of value in these personalities. I also do feel that for any Indian athlete to have even qualified for the Olympics is a huge, huge celebration. Only 11,000 of the most elite athletes out of a population of 7 billion make it to the Olympics across 200 countries, right? So that's a phenomenal achievement for an Indian athlete. And as Sujatha pointed out, the Indian athlete is not coming from urban India. They are coming from tier 2. They are coming from semi-urban, rural India. It's also a great celebration, I think, to celebrate the Indian women athlete, right? 7 out of the last 15 medals have been won by women athletes. So not only are they breaking gender stereotypes, but they are really kind of establishing themselves that they are the best in the world. So from that perspective, I think there are multiple touch points, and I think brands have to start being creative, innovative in terms of, I think, how they bring the human angle stories of these athletes. And we are seeing that is happening more and more. And that's a very, very promising sight in terms of the use of non-cricket athletes. But the reality still is that the 90% of all revenue streams is dominated by cricket. And we are here, I think, to push the needle and to push the envelope on that.
Absolutely. And, you know, having said that, Yes Bank's the first association with Olympics is this year with Paris Olympics. So what made you associate, and, you know, how does Olympic Association align with your brand values and core brand principles for Yes Bank?
There is another side of this successful person, if we are seeing whether it is Neeraj or whether it is PV Sindhu or it is Tejinder Singh. The ecosystem is their coaches, their friends, their families who have encouraged, because it's not easy to come up from there.
Correct.
Now these values, if I pick up, which is in terms of getting into being transparent, hardworking, flexible, agile, so you can associate all these superlatives and latives to the brand. Having said that, at Yes Bank, that's what we wanted to, you know, align ourselves with a global sport. We wanted to align ourselves with the second and the third cities of the country and not being seen as a more metrocentric brand. And at the same time, value the kind of work not only done by the players, but the ecosystem around it.
Excellent segue for my next question to you, Ashish. Tell us, Tasva is fairly a young brand. It was, you know, launched in December 2021. So it's fairly a young brand. So how did you see value in associating yourself with Olympics at a time also when Tasva is expanding to newer markets and newer cities?
We actually looked at this as a very, very meaningful collaboration. It's our first sort of collaboration with sport, and the whole excellence of Indian Olympic athletes is something we wanted to be associated with and partner with. And what we sort of ended up doing was actually working closely with the IOA, which is the Indian Olympic Association, and actually figuring out that with this whole ceremony which will happen and the launch ceremony and the ceremonial attire that we are designing, we wanted it to be highly functional. And what we did was make sure that the garments themselves were inspired by the Indian flag. We also made sure that the garments were extremely lightweight and breathable to make sure that, you know, they'll be comfortable during the Paris summer heat, and they'll actually be sailing down the river. And that was our overall effort with this association.
On that note, it is time for a short break. This conversation will continue on the other side of this break. Welcome back. In today's special, we are speaking about brands and advertisers rooting for India contingent at Paris Olympics 2024. Sujatha, correct me if I'm wrong, Visa has been associated with Olympics globally since 1986, I believe. That's right? So since 1986, so how, you know, like give us an insight or, you know, an understanding on how does Visa overall think about these associations and how do they go beyond, let's say, performance outcomes of these athletes that, you know, they associate themselves with?
So Visa is the global sponsor for two of the biggest sports events in the world,
FIFA
Olympics and FIFA.
Yeah.
Yeah, FIFA and Olympics. So, and this has been going on for a long time, and we have planned to continue this for a good time into the future. like I said earlier, it's never about just the performance. We obviously are delighted if our Team Visa athletes get medals, but that's not the reason we associate with them. We see how they fit with the brand. How do we take it forward? And it's a relationship both ways. So I just want to tell you, for example, Shibani, in November last year, when the Paris village opened for the for the Olympics the first time, we actually gave an offer to all the Team Visa athletes to come for a 2-day summit, see what the games is like, the village, what will you see, how will it be? And a number of our athletes actually went, and they said this was an experience they wouldn't have got any other way. So it's not only about the brand, but how can we help each of the athletes who are part of our family? And even from an India side, when we promote this, it's not about just promoting the brand, but it's about promoting the support for these athletes. I'll give you a small example. We all know that Tokyo 2020, which was actually in 2021, was one with no audience.
Yeah.
So what we did is we actually ran a campaign for PV Sindhu called A Million Cheers. We said she's going without any audience there. Can we send 1 million cheers? And to our amazement, within 1 week, we actually got 8.5 million cheers. So
Wow.
this year, obviously in Paris, it's very different. We don't need to send cheers, but what we're trying to do is to get the whole billion population involved. And we're talking to them. We're doing something called the Ultimate Fan Challenge, asking people to do challenges that Sindhu and Neeraj themselves has posed. And those who win will actually get a chance to meet their dream athletes.
Well, I'm definitely applying for this challenge. I want to participate in that. But Nipun, tell us, how is, Yes Bank extending the support to the Olympic contingent beyond just an association with the contingent?
Yeah, so we actually launched a specific savings account, which is called the Yes Glory, which is not only for the Olympians, as we said, these are very select, not even 1% of the population which wants to go, which is participating to go into Olympics. So this is going to run across for all the athletes. Yeah. All athletes are eligible to apply for this savings account. This is specially crafted for them. It has features like right from health to coaching to nutrition to travel services to forex, which has been specially crafted for keeping in mind what the athlete needs.
Divyanshu, at JSW Sports, you deal with these athletes on a day-to-day basis. You also manage some of them. Give us an understanding on, how can Indian corporate or Indian, companies step up to extend their support for the preparation beyond Paris as well?
See, the one good thing which has happened is that this Olympic cycle is happening in an interim of 3 years only,
3 years, that's
right?
From
So,
21 to now.
And the other good thing has been that we've had back-to-back big multi-sporting events happening. You had the Commonwealth Games, you had the Asian Games. Yeah. So one big challenge that it has combated is that Olympic athletes, even if they play very competitive sport, global sport, their visibility on television, on media used to be restricted. Now, of course, it cannot be compared to a sport which is broadcast every day, but still that's getting much, much better, right? So, and I think the truth of the Indian sporting ecosystem is, jo dikhta hai, wo bikta hai, right? So as that is changing, right? And it's so heartwarming to see everyone talking about Neeraj, Sindhu. The other day I was at Brigade Road and you see hoardings of Nikat Zareen, Mirabai Chanu, Neeraj Chopra. So that's a tectonic shift and change that you are seeing. And one of the reasons for that change is also because if brands are investing in Olympic sports, there is not that much of clutter which would be there in other sports, right? So from that perspective, huge opportunity. To answer your question of how is it that brands can get involved, I think in this journey, brands are leveraging content. Brands are leveraging that what are the pain points that exist in the Indian athlete's journey, and there are many pain points, right? And each and every different category, like Nipun's talking about, what is it that the financial services can do? What is it that a hospitality company could do? What is it that a nutrition company can do when India is one of the top violators when it comes to doping, right? So you identify these many gaps that still exist in the Indian ecosystem, and you'll realize that there would be a lot of purpose-led association that could happen. So I think that's a directional shift which is happening, and it will present immense opportunities which are beyond just media as well.
Yeah. And the main concern for brands is visibility around these sporting events. Now, this is like a month-long extravaganza that is going to happen, starting in the next few days. But having said that, What are some of the engagement opportunities that brand can build around, these 20-25 days of Olympics that happens in Paris? What are some of the examples that you have seen in the past many years that have been successful case studies of, maybe some global brand that implemented at the previous Olympics?
Look, this is you need to see this entire from the situation from the perspective of the number of days that is given to cricket to kind of evolve into such a big spectator sport. We did some calculation last year. If you really look at simply the number of India days of cricket, it's about half the year, like about 100 days out of 300. And here you're talking about 20 days of overall Olympics, which is more a festival of humanity where Indians will get very little, airtime. And I think many brands have done stuff around send-offs, where it's not just about your time at the stadium or at the arena, but even at the airports, what they are doing, their moments of anticipation, their moments of excitement, their moments of anxiety. And I've seen some work in the past done by phone brands as to how they are connecting with their families, etc. So how do you look at these athletes as not just performing humans and humans under pressure, but also as regular everyday people who are going far away from their homes with packed their suitcases with hopes and expectations. So I guess brands have a queue in there. Many brands have done work, beverage brands have done work around that, food brands have done work around that. I'd like to also point out at some very interesting other opportunities like Olympics. While we talk about all these, maybe about 17 or 18 Indian Army athletes who are going. So there is clearly there is a community out there which kind of warms up very well to, the defense forces. So things can be done out there. A very interesting fact, I don't know if any brand is going to leverage that. We have about 10 dogs from our CRPFs and ITBPs and all our forces who are going there as the K9 squad. Who would have heard of that? So there is a huge security squad comprising dogs, and out of which 10 of them are Indian. Yeah. So I wonder if if Pedigree is listening to me or any other food dog brand is listening.
That's a good thought. Vinit, final thoughts. How should advertisers measure the success of their Olympic association? Can you give us the key metrics or KPIs?
Yeah. So when it comes to Olympics, Shibani, most advertisers that we deal with are looking at the return on objectives as a measure of success rather than return on investments, because your objectives for Olympics would be very different to any other investments in sport. So for example, purpose-driven advertising, is one big thing that we see around Olympics. Right? So look at what P&G does around the Moms campaign, look at what Amul does around the Taste of India campaign. So it's more of about supporting the country, supporting and cheering for the contingent and looking at Team India shine at the global stage is the narrative at the heart of the advertisers campaign that we see. Okay, so therefore one need not look at Olympic as a movement or as a campaign from a sheer measurement standpoint, but from a supporting standpoint.
Great thought. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us in the studio today, and thank you for joining us online, Ashish, Sujatha and Hari.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, it's a wrap. Goodbye.